afternoon, everyone. Wow, we're moving along. I know we have to get out of here by 2:30, but it's not really actually because of the buses. I know that Bill probably doesn't want me to mention this, but he's having surgery this afternoon, and we need to get out of here. He's hired a doctor to help him with his golf game. And it is major surgery. It's all love. I'm Brad Richardson, Executive Director of Knox. General Milano, thank you very much. And Bill, thank you very much for the invitation. Thank you guys for moving as quickly as I've ever seen us do this briefing, which is outstanding. I want to talk about, next slide please, I want to talk about 5 of the components of the growth management plan that Knox and many others have been working on for the last 4 years. And the 5 components you can see there. Next slide. The economic impact analysis we had done a couple of years ago to help us with making the case with the Kentucky legislature and the governor actually initially to invest in the area, of course, in water, wastewater, education, and also roads. This new update from Paul Coombs pretty much verifies and actually shows a slight increase in the number of jobs and also that spin-off effect and also the payroll effect that was mentioned there of $322 million. And for my colleagues up here, that $937 million construction figure, since this is all moving, as you all said, really goes all the way back to the privatization and includes everything that's been happening basically since 2005. Next slide, please. Something I wanted to show you, and I think mostly everybody in this room, I'm sure, knows what the impact of Fort Knox is in the local and regional economy. But when Paul did the study, which by the way is about 30 pages or so and is online and you can access the entire thing at our website, he also reminded us in Hardin County alone, and you can see from the chart, what the impact is from a payroll standpoint, being 3 times basically larger than the next industry sector, which is manufacturing. Now that is before you add $322 million worth of new impact to it. Some of it will be in there actually since that's a 2007 study, but again you get the feeling, and I think we know, of what the impact is from Fort Knox on our local economy and regional economy. Next slide, please. Education has been, and we're talking preschool through 12 here, so not post-secondary education, which has a whole another initiative or numerous initiatives, if you will. But we contracted with Al Ryder and the North Central Education Foundation recently to give us a check of where we are and to also do a needs analysis about what's happening in the various school districts that are going to be most highly impacted by these new students coming. He also last week convened a roundtable to talk about the way ahead, if you will, and what we can do from an action agenda standpoint, and also to let everybody know exactly where we are and some of our accomplishments and challenges. Next slide, please. And I don't mean to imply that these accomplishments and challenges are brand new and, of course, have happened in the last few months. This has been on the horizon as an actuality now since the BRAC initiative and the transformation started. But as you can see there, and actually that includes Fort Knox schools, Fort Knox School has been completed, operating. In fact, isn't this the end of the first school year? So, but there are construction projects underway. I think the most complete any of the projects is, with the exception, of course, of the recent opening of North Middle School, is a 40% construction project going on in Meade County. So there's more to come. There's more going on now, as you probably know, with the Radcliffe Middle School that'll become an elementary school on 31W. It also tells you there that school districts have passed a nickel tax, which has been a requirement actually to be able to access some matching dollars from the state of Kentucky. Hardin County school system did this, I believe, Nanette, last year? So 2 years ago? Last year. To allow them to have additional bonding capacity so they could actually build some new facilities. Next slide, please. Also during this time, there's been additional training occur, as it says, for guidance counselors and other folks to help them deal with the students and also the military family issues that may arise as a result now of having the infantry brigade combat team here. Deployable parent creates some new issues sometimes for children, and we need to be sensitive to that in the education system. And I think we already are and do have programs, but this is actually just stepping that up some. And as you can see, there are over 1,300 new students in the schools since the transformation has occurred, and if I'm not mistaken, there are about 1,000 to 1,200 more that are expected. Next slide. Challenges. Money. Always a challenge. As it says there, limited federal funding. Actually, I don't think there's been any federal funding with the exception of the matching dollars that you all get for, what's the name of the program, Nanette? Are you out there? Thank you. But regarding federal funding, and it's not been promised, but it has been promised that we examine what's been happening. This BRAC action, this transformation is actually the BRAC action itself of 2005 is larger than the previous four. So the Department of Education and also other federal agencies are really not familiar with what some of the outcomes may be and what the spin-offs may be as a result of 22, 23 gaining communities. So what's going to happen soon in the next 6 months or so is that we will be the seventh installation, if you will, and community to talk about what has happened, what the impacts have been on the school systems, and whether or not in the next BRAC action or before any next BRAC action, there may be some federal funds that can be freed up. No promise, but to help us with this, because this has basically been borne by the local community to come up with the dollars to support the initiative. Challenge, planning for the unknown. You can see that. And this is what the superintendents have been dealing with, is all of the unknowns of where will the children live and how do you, next slide please, how do you deal with the staffing concerns that go with that? It changes the logistics, it changes bus routes, it changes sometimes schedules, and that's been the biggest issue and will be one of the issues, of course, that we will be discussing with the Federal Department of Education. Next slide please. Workforce development, which has been going on also since 2006. This basically is some of the external initiatives that have been going on. The internal initiatives I'm going to talk about in a minute, but just briefly with talking about the community tours. Federal hiring symposiums, I think we've been doing that now for about a year and a half. That will continue through June 2010. These are held on the second Friday of every month at Western Kentucky University in Radcliffe and at ECTC in Elizabethtown. If you know anyone that's interested in getting into the federal hiring system and getting one of these jobs, these are outstanding opportunities for them to go and learn what needs to be done to get in that process. And I would tell you, too, that we also have, that's a 3-hour session. It occurs twice during those days. There is now a 25-minute video, which is on our website, which is a condensation of that 3-hour conversation. The good news is that you can get the highlights. The bad news is, of course, there's no Q&A, so it's not in real time.